Hey everybody, this is Miss Harrington, and I'm going to go over the study guide for the skills that you will be asked questions about on your Unit 5 assessment that you will be taking on 3-8 and 3-9 of the upcoming week. So on the front of your skills study guide, you're going to see 3 skills that we've talked about so far throughout Unit 5. So we've discussed main idea and details. We have discussed author's reasons and evidence. And we've discussed subject-verb agreement. So these are the 3 on the front. Once we go over these, we'll flip it over to the back, and there's 2 other skills that we will just go over and review. So starting with main idea and details, this, in my opinion, is probably the easiest skill we've covered because this is a skill that you've heard since 1st and 2nd grade. So things to pay attention to when we're talking main idea and details. So question, what is the main idea? It's what the text is mostly about, okay? So a lot of the time on questions, it won't necessarily always say what is the main idea of the passage. The question may also say what is the text or what is the passage mostly about. So we need to know that that also means main idea. Now, something I want to focus on, when you are asked about the main idea of a text, let's say that you have read a passage about how cheetahs run fast or why cheetahs run fast. If you're asked what the main idea is and you simply answer cheetahs, well, that's not what we call a main idea. That is what we call a topic. Topics are more broad than main idea. Main idea is a little bit more specific. So again, if you were to read a passage about why cheetahs run fast, you wouldn't say the main idea was cheetahs. That's the topic. What you would say is how cheetahs run fast or why cheetahs run fast. That's the main idea. It's a little more specific than the topic. So once you're able to identify the main idea, you always want to be able to support or back up what you're saying the main idea is by using details. So details are going to be sentences in the text, and they have to be sentences that tell more about, describe, or explain the main idea. So if you're telling me that the main idea of a passage is what brown bears eat, but all of the details you give me are about what polar bears eat, well, if all of the details are about polar bears and what they eat, your main idea has to be about the food that a polar bear eats. So you want to make sure your main idea and your details connect to one another, that they go together. So there are several ways that you can figure out the main idea. So a few ways you could figure out the main idea is you could ask yourself that question, what is this mostly about? Look at the title. Now, just because you look at the title, don't say the main idea is and write down the title. That might not necessarily be true, but the title will be a great clue for you to figure out the main idea. If there are pictures or illustrations in the text, always look at those for clues. Looking for repeated words, so words that are repeated over and over again throughout a text, is another huge clue to help you figure out what the main idea is. Now, sometimes in a shorter text or passage, the main idea could be the first or the last sentence of the text. So with the first sentence, the author's introducing what they're talking about. And with the last sentence, they're concluding or kind of wrapping up what they're talking about. So you could always look at the first and the last sentence to help you figure out the main idea. And then at the bottom, it's just an example of an organizer where you would state what you think the main idea is, and then you provide supporting details to show you know what that passage or that text was about. So skill number 2 that we want to look at is author's reasons, okay? So authors have to give reasons and evidence to support the point that they're trying to make in whatever they're writing about. So you want to look for words like should or need to, or words like good or bad, and you ask yourself, what is the author telling me to do, telling me to think, or telling me to believe? So the author, no matter what kind of writing or text or passage it is, the author's going to have a point that they're trying to make, a point they're trying to get across to the reader. And then they're going to do that with reasons or evidence. So think back to when we wrote persuasive essays. So this is an essay where you give your opinion, and you have to back up your opinion with reasons why you feel that way, and evidence that supports your reason. So author's reasons is the same thing as a persuasive essay, an opinion essay. Think about it like that. So when you think author's reasons and evidence, I want you to think persuasive opinion essay. just like what we've written in class before. So you give your opinion, you give the point that you're trying to make, and then you want to back it up with evidence, with reasons. So to do that, the first thing you want to do is you want to, number one, find their claim or their point, what they say is true, okay? So find their claim or their point, what they believe to be true. What point are they trying to make? Once you can do that, then you want to find the reasons that they give to make you believe what it is they're trying to say. So again, when you think, I've got to figure out author's point, author's reasons and evidence, think about when we write a persuasive or opinion essay. All right, now this one is a grammar skill. It's the first grammar skill that we worked with in Unit 5. So this was on subject-verb agreement. So when we talk about subject-verb agreements, when we see that the subject of our sentence is singular, we want to add S to our verb. So an example sentence, the teacher, so there's my singular subject, reads, with an S, many books. So when your subject is singular, you're going to add S to your verb. Now, exception to the rule, and we talked about this early in the unit. If your subject is I or you, then you do not add S to your verb. So keep that in mind. And again, with subject-verb agreement, if you read the sentence out loud to yourself, you're going to hear if the subject and the verb agree, if they go together. Because if you were to read this sentence and say the teacher read many books, well, you can hear that that does not sound correct. So you know that you need to add an S. But with this exception to the rule, if you were to say I reads many books, again, saying it out loud, you hear that it doesn't sound correct. Now, on the opposite end of that, when you have a plural subject, you do not add S to your verb. So look at this example sentence. All teachers, so there's my plural subject, grade papers. So because my subject was plural, I did not add an S to the verb. And again, saying it out loud, you can hear what sounds right and what sounds wrong. We know it wouldn't sound right to say all teachers grades papers. All right, so we're going to flip it over to the back. And we're going to go over prepositions and prepositional phrases and correlative conjunctions. So with a preposition, a couple of things we want to remember. A preposition is a word and a phrase, prepositional phrase, that connects a noun to the rest of the sentence. Now, it's going to tell you a few things. It can tell you where something's happening, when something's happening, but it can also tell how something is happening. I'm going to add that over here to the side. So some examples. The car is on the road. So on the road would be our prepositional phrase. It tells me where the car is. On is my preposition because the preposition is always the first word in the phrase. And then road would be my object of the preposition. Remember, object of the preposition, number one, is the last word of the prepositional phrase. And to know for sure that it's an object, it has to be a noun or a pronoun. Look at this next sentence. The shoe is under the bed. So under the bed is our prepositional phrase. It tells me where the shoe is. Under is the preposition, first word of the phrase. And then bed is the object. I know it's an object because bed is a noun. You can play after school. So after school is our prepositional phrase. It tells me when I can play. After is the preposition, first word of the phrase, and then school is your object because school is a noun. And then this last example, brush your teeth before bed. Before bed is going to be my prepositional phrase. Before is my preposition, first word in the phrase, and then bed would be my object. And I know it's a true object because bed is a noun. All right, so for our last review skill, we're looking at correlative conjunctions. So when we use correlative conjunctions, as I've said before, I like to call these Batman and Robin words. Now, I like to call them Batman and Robin words because Batman and Robin work as a team. Well, these words together work as a team. We never switch the order of the words. So like we always say Batman and Robin, we never say Robin and Batman. So that means I'm always going to say both and. It can never be and both. So looking at these commonly used correlative conjunctions, you have both and, which means two options are possible. So that means two things in the sentence are connected. So there's a connection between two things in the sentence. Not only, but also, so creates emphasis. This is where you're adding an extra piece of information. So you're giving me extra info about something. When you see either or, this means that a choice has been given. Neither nor, so makes two negative statements. Neither nor is like using that word not. And then whether or is where you're presented with two possibilities. So whether or and either or are very similar to one another. Obviously, they both have or, but either or is a choice where like it has to be one or the other. Whether or is, yes, there are choices, but one of them will happen, and usually they're positive choices. All right, so I hope this skills study page helps you for the Unit 5 assessment. And again, you can always get on Clever and rewatch any of the previous videos for any of these skills, and you can rewatch this video as much as you need before you're ready to take that assessment. Good luck, guys.